Hello, I have another video for you. This cool, neat looking radio you see before you is a Grundig. It says Transistor 16. So this is actually the international version. That's what I've seen it noted as in some reference books on these old Grundig radios. There was a domestic or European version that was made, and then there was a quote unquote an international version. And the international version was called the Transistor something or other. So this is called the 16. There was a Transistor 17 and others. In the international, like export versions, had the names of the different bands in English, or what we would note as, FM. S1 through 3 here is for shortwave, M is medium wave, L is long wave. And that's the same thing you see on the side here. This is turn the radio off, long wave, medium wave button, S1, S2, S3. You can switch in an external antenna on the back. This is FM, and this is for a pickup. There's this German type DIN connector that you could connect like a phonograph up to and play through here as the speaker, but I believe it was line in, line out. And so the domestic or German models would have said Ocean Boy down here from what I've seen. And there would be a little sticker or something in the back that notes that model. So this would have been the Ocean Boy 202, and this was the first of the Ocean Boy models that were made back in around 1962, 61, 62 time frame. So I kind of went over, this is the volume knob. And so there's no on-off switch. So as soon as you press one of the buttons to go to the band, the radio comes on, and to turn it off, you hit the off button. This is the volume knob, and this is supposed to, when you push this, it's supposed to light up a bulb that is behind here. But I checked the bulb. The bulb seemed to be okay, but it wasn't coming on. I'd have to look into that. This is the tuning knob, and then there's another little black thing you can switch for fine tuning, but you can see the what's noted on here is in English. For the domestic versions, this would have been in German. So you can see that's for tuning, and up here is volume, and below that it says illumin. It's hard to see, but yeah, this is for illumination. And I guess this is some type of, I'm not really sure. This isn't working. Some kind of little meter. But you can see a close-up of the dial plate there. And at the top there's these thumb wheels. One is for the bass tone, and this is for over here for the treble. And so what distinguishes this as the Ocean Boy 202 from the 204, which came out a year or two later, it had a additional switch here in the center, because this just has one big speaker, but the 204 and the ones that came out later had the large speaker, and then inside of that was a smaller tweeter. So there's a button you can push to either play the big speaker by itself, or when you went the other way, you added the tweeter in there, and that was really only helpful for FM. So that's the front of the radio. It has a carrying handle. You can see here, I guess there's an antenna that was not as long as on the models that came out after this one. This had 7 elements and was 83 centimeters long. And when the next model, the 204, came out, it was 12 elements and 144 centimeters long. So quite a bit longer than this one. Let me turn this around. This is the side. It's kind of a I don't know what you call it, the term, but it slopes here and then it slopes down and gets wider as it goes to the bottom on the sides. Kind of a interesting design. Here's the back of the radio. So here's the antenna. This is the tuner for the AM and shortwave and long wave with the little pulley on the end there. And this is the tuner and pulley for FM. And here's a input connection for a car antenna. It uses the, I forgot the name of that, but it plugs in here, and here's that DIN, German DIN connector in and out that connect externally to phono. That's the earplug connector, and here's connections for external antenna. This is for the antenna input, and this is for the ground, and then I believe these were for FM, and you can get banana plugs that will fit in here nicely to use that, and those are switched in by that antenna button on the front of the radio. This is the battery box here, and then it has these little contacts on the battery box that rub up against these. That's how you get the voltage sent to the radio, believe it. But you could also get this is batteries, but you could also get one that is a power supply that you can hook into AC and run it off of that, but this is just the battery. So if you find one of these radios and this is missing, you're going to be kind of screwed, because I haven't seen these coming up on eBay. Well, I haven't seen them at all, so it'd be hard to find. So that's the back of the radio. Here's the ferrite bar for, I believe this is used for AM and long wave, and the bulb access is here. So it takes a little finagling, but you can pull the bulb out and change it from the back. And this looks sort of similar to, if you've seen my video on the satellite Transistor 5000, the larger radio, but similar type of circuit board here, in the layout in the back. It's just a little bit larger, but you may have noticed, and there's nothing on this other side of the radio similar to the other one. This folds up, this folds down, and there's a little latch here that's supposed to go underneath this little latch bar here, but it's not lined up, so it won't go in. But it has this grill, so for some of the later models, there's a sliding door that opens that allows you to access, these connections, but this, you have to drop the door down to access it. But it does give you a cutout here for the car antenna. So from what I've read, this was noted as a portable radio, even though it's somewhat big. But so you could put this in your car, run it off of the batteries, and then hook the antenna input plug into here, and then listen in your car. That's pretty novel. But maybe there's something interesting that you've noticed about this radio. I guess there's no dial indicator. So I got this radio off of Facebook Marketplace. Somebody was selling it, and so I think I got it at a pretty good price. I didn't pay what he was asking, because when he advertised this, he said these push buttons are supposed to, they're supposed to push it in and then lock in place. They weren't doing that at all. So that was one thing wrong with it. And then the dial indicators were on, but when you turn the tuning knob, it wouldn't move. So I was assuming the dial cord was broken. So on some of these, it's kind of a pain to redo the dial cord. So I mentioned all of that and got him down to a pretty good price, I would say. But so when I opened up the radio, I took it out of the chassis. It's similar to taking it out of the satellite Transistor 5000 video. But the access for to spray the contact cleaner deoxit for these was a little different, but I did that, and now you can see all of the push buttons are working really well. They lock in, and then once you pressed another button, the one that was pressed in pops out. The antenna just goes in and out to connect the antenna, and this is for that phono German DIN plug. But then when I got into the back, I'll show you that later. So so like I said, when you push a button for a band, the radio comes on. So got it on one of the FM stations. So since there's
still amazing people today. This was literally phenomenal. This was a new kind.
So since there's no tuning, the tuning dial, the tuning cord isn't hooked up, I have to turn the... So since the tuning cord, dial cord is not connected, I have to turn the pulley for the FM tuner and the other tuner to tune the radio. So you're sort of tuning in the blind. But this is one of the local public radio, KUHF, out of the University of Houston. So the radio does work. It's just that the dial cord isn't connected and the dial pointers aren't connected. So that's FM and then medium wave AM. Here's one of the sports talk radio stations here in Houston. So the radio is working. So once I got the push buttons cleaned up and working properly, I went to go look at the dial cord, and when you would turn the tuning knob in the front, it would turn, but the needle wouldn't move up and down. So I went back here and I tried to turn this manually like I did to tune it, but it was locked up. So I put some deoxit oil on the moving parts here, and then I ended up cutting the dial cord, and this was turning freely, so it was locked up somewhere. And and let me see, I'm trying, there's actually two sets of dial cord. One, it's a little involved, the routing for this here, but this is one dial cord routing, and there's a separate one for the FM section. But these radios, let's see if I could move this in closer so you can see this. They operate on a clutch mechanism, since there's only one tuning knob on the front that's used to tune for FM or then the AM shortwave and long wave. There's this clutch mechanism that you can see over here, this silver thing here. And there's some, I don't know, I guess the end of these, let me push the, I'm going to push the FM. You can see that moved in. And then that's supposed to have some kind of pads on this side, or maybe it's this side, that'll press against this, and this is where what would turn. So I'm going to turn the tuning knob in the front. But you can see this is supposed to be turning. That would turn the dial cord where the dial cord sits. It's not turning because the clutch mechanism is messed up. So if I go back to the medium wave, you can see it pops out the other way, and then they have this similar type pad thing on the other side that's supposed to press against this and then turn this part that turns the dial string. But I guess that would be on the other side of this. But so this is stripped out is basically what I'm saying. So it's really not fixable in my opinion, I guess, unless you get a donor radio and somehow take this off and hook it up, and then if the clutch can work again. But see, let me zoom in a little closer. For FM, and then for the other way it moves back the other way. So that's the clutch mechanism. That's how they change from FM to the other bands. But this is messed up. There's, I guess, not enough force to turn that. So like I said, I have to turn this wheel for AM shortwave, long wave to tune it, or this one for FM right here. So that's sort of a drag. I thought just the dial cord might have been messed up, but turned out to be a little more involved. But that's the way things go with vintage radios. But I'm still happy with the radio. I just love the look. Just love the look of the radio. A quick video. This is a Grundig Transistor 16. And this, when I got it, the push buttons didn't engage. They would you just push them in and they pop back out. They wouldn't click. So I got that working. But then the big problem is this. Well, if you try to turn this tuning capacitor, it's real tight. I put some solvent down here and oil to try to free it up, but I think the problem is, I guess, if the capacitor, the grease dried and it wouldn't move, somebody tried to force it, because I'm turning the tuning knob in the front. You can see my hand there in the back, but some kind of clutch is supposed to engage whenever you're in FM or the other bands, and you see it's just spinning. This is so go to FM. You see it pushed in. I believe that's supposed to turn this tuning knob pulley capacitor, but same thing. I guess it's from inside the other way back there, but that's just spinning and slipping. So I don't know how to fix that unless you Rube Goldberg something, but that's a pain with this maze of dial cord stringing. Whoever thought of this, man? I think it's going under here. There's a pulley there, going around here, up the top, down the front face, and then it goes this way, back up. And I don't know if it's... And so it does work on shortwave as well, but you know, I have to tune it based on using another radio. And so there was it's like this, the Houston Astros are playing. So there was one other neat thing about the radio that really was part of the main reason that I bought it. So again, the radio does work, but it's kind of dead in the water with getting the tuning cord restrung and the dial indicators working because of that clutch mechanism. But let me show you this. So there's actually a cover that fits over the back of this, and you know, get some symbols here for, I think it's for earphone. This is the phono in and out. You can see auto car antenna plug. There's a connection here for the ground, the main antenna, and then for FM right here. So this is just held in by some screws, so I had taken this off. But let me show you the cool thing that this also came with. Ta-da! So this came with an accessory, which was an optional carrying case, and you can see here it has the Grundig emblem on it. If that could focus in, and it looks in actually pretty good condition. So it has two zippers on each side that will zipper up, and then you can carry the radio around. And this is fairly rare to find, so it sort of has a couple little imperfections here on the front, but other than that, it's I think it's in pretty good shape for something that's like 60 some years old. So that's that, and then it swings out, and here's the radio. So you can take the radio out of the case. I won't bore you with that. There you go, the radio and the optional accessory carrying case. I thought that was pretty cool to at least come with that. And like I said, here's the so the radio is off, so the volume isn't working, but as soon as I hit a band.
Take a look at a guy named Julio Rodriguez. Farmer Del Blanco,
I think they're doing a segment on the Beatles, so they're playing some Beatles music on the KUHF public radio station. So that's the Grundig Ocean Boy Transistor 16, or I should say the Grundig Transistor 16, or the Ocean Boy 202. And so you can find this book on, I got it off Amazon. It talks about 40 years of the Grundig Ocean Boy. And it's written by this guy named Thomas Baer. And he goes through the different models of the Ocean Boy. So he's shown the 202, which is what this basically is, the international version, noting it 1962. Then the 204 came out about 2 years later. And so he has a bunch of information in here about the radios, but I think I found a mistake. So he says here the Ocean Boy 202 was sold in the U.S. as the Transistor 17, which has another dial containing figures only instead of the European shortwave stations and cities on it. But I think this is actually the Transistor 16, not the 17, as noted here, because it doesn't have this center additional switch for the two speakers to pull in and out, and just some other info about the different radios. So, as I mentioned, this has the 7-element 83 centimeter whip antenna, whereas the later models had a lot longer antenna. So this is a 202, and he has pictures in the book here. And it looks like the case he was showing in this picture is different than the one that I have. Mine has zippers on the side, but this has buckles and latches. Same type of screening on the back. The cover for the connectors, and as you can see, the 202 just has the two thumb wheels, nothing in the center. Then when they go to the 204, which was the next model, it says the fall of 63 to 64, longer element antenna, uses the same adapter. But as you can see from the pictures, it has this center switch now. But everything else on the front is pretty much the same, and this is now showing the same case that I have with the two zippers. Mine didn't actually have the hole for the antenna, though. That's interesting how they changed things up. And then the 204 actually had a little door that you can open and close on that back grill that allowed access to the connectors, whereas on the 202 or this Transistor 16 model, you have to swing the door down to access that. But it goes through the different Ocean Boy models, so really informative. Highly recommend it. All right, I wanted to take a look on the internet, on eBay, to see if I could find some other of these older Grundig Ocean Boy radios. I'd gone on YouTube, didn't really see any for the Grundig 202 or the Transistor 16, but I did find this one selling on eBay. It's listed as a Grundig Portable Transworld TR16 radio parts. Looks very promising as is for $195. Seems a little steep to me, but we'll zoom in here. As you can see, it says Transworld TR16. That's interesting, because mine says, it's the Transistor 16. So, that's interesting. I'm not sure why it says Transworld 16. That's interesting, but you can see it's similar with the two knobs and this kind of indicator here, but that's not an original knob, or maybe they just put the Grundig emblem, but the knob center looks different. It has some kind of mildew or something on here. Looks like the FM button is pushed in, not popping out, so that looks okay. Let's see some of these other pictures. Here's the grill. Looks like this is a brown color. Mine was grayish, but it does look like the antenna is missing. That's not a good thing because it's probably going to be hard to find. Another close-up picture there. Another close-up picture of the dial with kind of the stuff that should be able to be cleaned up, I think. Here's the back. So this orange, the yellow thing is the battery box. There's no cord coming off, so I assume this is just powered by the batteries. And there's the back cover, the latch, other pictures of the back of the radio. So I think I'd actually message this guy. I guess he said that it wasn't working, power cord was missing and couldn't be tested, but I told him that the yellow thing there was the battery box. So he said it was like in storage. He's gonna have to find it, pull it out, assuming he was gonna test it to see if it even powered up, but I hadn't heard from him at all. But I mean, the radio's in sort of decent shape. Some of this stuff is ungluing. Bottom, and does come with the carrying case. Looks like the older or different style than the one that I had. So that was this one, but for $195, that seems really high to me, and the shipping is here $14.48. So definitely not something I would be looking at to buy. But it seems like, you know, some of the people selling these may have found them at estate sales and aren't really that familiar with the radio. But, you know, missing the antenna is sort of a big problem. But it does look like you can see the dial indicators. There's two separate ones, FM and for the other band. So that, at least it looks to be in place. Dial cord doesn't seem to be broken, but not sure how well they operate. So that was a Transworld 16. That still interests me. Interesting. Not a Transistor 16. I found another 202 model. This was it was sold in Europe. You can see it's the 202 or the Transistor 16. No center switch for the select the speakers, but you can see this is the domestic faceplate with the lettering K instead of S for shortwave, U for FM. You know, it doesn't say transistor down here. It says Ocean Boy. Again, the K and the U here on the side for the domestic version. See what some of the other pictures look like here. So this one does come with the carrying case. It looks like yeah, this has the zippers like mine does. But the radio itself looks cosmetically looks to be in pretty good shape. It does have the antenna there. At least its top is sticking out. The knobs look like they're the original knobs with the silver center parts in there. The grill looks in pretty good shape, as well as the yellow buttons. I don't see any of them pressed in. And it looks like the dial indicators are here, so it looks like they're not falling down, which is not bad. This looks in pretty good shape, at least cosmetically. But yeah, he did note that the antenna was broken off right there. And I think this was all in German. It's sold in Europe, I guess Germany, but the radio, he said, was working, so that's a plus. This is the back. Looks like it has the battery box here, and that looks pretty clean. It is the Ocean Boy 202. Shot of the batteries box, the batteries there. Inside, I don't see really any corrosion, so that looks pretty clean. Actually, this radio actually looks in pretty good shape if it's working. And so it's sold for, as you can see over here, it's sold for about $87.49, which to me isn't bad. I guess if it's working, looks good, and cosmetically, the only problem is the antenna, so that's sort of an issue. It's probably going to be hard to find one of those antennas, but Ocean Boy 202 that sold, this thing was fairly recently, I think last year. Either earlier this year or last year. That's the one we just saw. Here's one that's on eBay selling currently in the US. You know, it's noted as a vintage Grundig Ocean Boy multi-band transistor radio for parts repair. So you can see it's in pretty bad shape. It's missing the two front knobs. Some discoloration here. There's a crack in the front grille. At least the the antenna button is pressed in. But you can see, what do you see here? There's no orange dial indicators on either FM or the other band, so that's a red flag. So this is the 204 because it has the center switch for the two speakers. It looks like it does have the antenna there. Side picture, the back. Yeah, it's just some close-up shots. There's the broken front grille. I believe here's the back of the radio. There's something significant missing from back here. There's no speaker. Another thing, what do you see? Dial cord for the FM section is broken. And it's hard to see if you can see some dial cord here for the other section, but it's, I think that's probably broken as well. Antenna should be mounted up here. It's fallen. Looks like the screws are out. It's rusted. So this radio looks like it was parted out. And those parts used probably to fix another radio. So this is definitely something I wouldn't even look at unless I was given it. Here's the battery box. I mean, these are hard to find, but you need to look inside to see if it's all corroded, if it's even of any use. So this radio looks like it's seen better days to me. Also the handle, part of the handle is broken. Definitely nothing I would recommend spending your money on. And so I think I did, I can't remember if it was this guy. No, it was the other guy. So definitely not good, but see, this is a domestic radio, Ocean Boy. It has the K for shortwave, and it's the 204. Here's one that sold recently that was being sold in the US. It looked to be in good shape cosmetically. It sold for $130. It looks like it, has the antenna. Zoom in here. These are the correct knobs with the centers. This is the domestic model. Ocean Boy is the K and the U for shortwave and FM. This is actually the 204 because it has a center switch for the speaker. Let's see what other pictures there are. The orange indicators are there, so the tuning cord, dial cord doesn't seem to be broken. Because he did say that this one does operate. Looks pretty clean for a 60-some-year-old radio. It's the battery container, and so that looks pretty good. Back cover. The back of the radio, so it looks like, yeah, the dial cord is there for that side, and on this side, and I'm assuming the clutch mechanism works. I would ask about that. You got the speaker, the antenna here on the side. So this looks pretty good. Some other pictures. Here's the 204 as a flip out movable door to get to the connections in the back. So yeah, so that doesn't look too bad. And here's one last one that's sold in Europe. It's noted as a Grundig Ocean Boy 204 transistor radio, but do you see something here? It doesn't have the center switch for the two speakers. Looks like the center silver part is missing from the knob here. It's like the buttons are pressed in. I believe it said this was untested. Looks like the antenna is there. That's a good thing. So you can see the orange dial indicator here for the shortwave. Is there orange indicator on FM? I don't see it. I don't see it over here, so that's something I'd look at. Looks like it's has some dirt there. See if he has pictures of the back of the radio. It's the side, top. Looks like it's a little dirty, but not in too bad of shape. I'm not sure what this was sticking out here. Let's see if we can look inside the back of the radio. Okay, here's the back, but see, this is a Grundig 202 because it didn't have the center switch for the speakers, so this was mislabeled. Looks like the this cover is black, so it looks like they came in different colors. Mine was gray. Here's the so this was the looks like the AC power adapter, and somebody's cut off the AC power cord. So that's not good. No, not sure why they did that. I guess let's see if he has a picture with this cover off to see if any dial cord is broken. What is that? I think that's an FM indicator. That's why we didn't see that on the front. So I'm assuming the dial cord on this is broken or something's happened with that part of the radio. Yeah, he didn't open up the back. So, but I guess this sold for $12. So yeah, for that price, I would have bought it just for the parts. But definitely the radio needs some work, and yeah, the power cord is cut. I'm assuming that power adapter is even working. So so that's just some of the radios that I saw that were selling on eBay. So hopefully this was helpful for you. They come up every so often, not a whole lot in the US, so they're somewhat rare in my opinion, but they're out there. So hopefully this gives you an idea of at least what some have sold for, the conditions, and what to look for. Just one last thing. So here's my baby, the Grundig Satellite Transistor 5000 that I've done a couple of videos on. I've taken it out of the chassis out at least for maybe 5 times working on it. It's working well now, so I really like the radio. But in reading this, this is the Ocean Boy, but there's a similar book for the Grundig Satellite. And in here, and talking about this is the Transistor 5000. So this was the first satellite Grundig radio that was made. It's called the 5000, or I believe it's the 205. 5000 for the international market, or the Satellite 205 domestically. But in this book, they were saying that these radios were patterned off of the later model of this Ocean Boy, and you can see they're similar because they The sides are similar with the sloping on the sides, and I believe they said there was the 207 model that came out in '67. These eventually started getting a little bigger and bigger. So there's the Ocean Boy 207 that was used as a template to pattern these satellite radios off of. So you can see the common design with the push buttons. This has 4 shortwave bands. This only has 3. But common design, similar case design. It's like they changed the badging here, but they have the top control bar is the same with the handles. This has a much longer antenna and a couple other fine-tuning knob, battery indicator, but the basic design's the same. So, and I'll just show you on the back here. You can check my other videos for more detailed info, but again, this has the sliding door that opens so you can access the connections without having to drop the door down. But here's what I've been using. I've been actually using the car antenna input to connect to my K480 WLA, and this is the connector. Is this RCA? Phono plug? I can't remember, but yeah, this fits into there, and it's been working pretty well. So, and on the end it has a, I think the UHF type coax connector. So I just have this hooked up to another coax connector that's hooked up to the K480 WLA, and it works well. I guess I'm not in the room with the antenna, but similarly as with this radio, to select that input, you just go over here and hit this antenna button, and that cuts off the circuitry to the whip antenna, so you can use the external connections in the back, same as this. So that's info about the Grundig Ocean Boy 202, or the Transistor 16. So again, thanks for watching. If you found the video interesting, learned something, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. All right, thanks for watching, and aloha.